during lockdown, I think people have had a lot of time to reflect on what their life will be like once measures start to be relaxed and once people start to go outside. So one of the kind of questions that I've been sent in is, how do we keep going one day at a time, and what can we use this time for to make our lives afterwards a little bit easier?
Well, the one day at a time thing is very challenging because our culture has got so used to certainty that we make a lot of plans about the future because we're very certain that the future is going to be just like the present. So now we know the future is not going to be like it was. So we're living with uncertainty, and I don't think people are used to uncertainty in the West at all. I think they're used to uncertainty in developing countries, but not in Europe. So the first thing is to try and get used to this day-to-day living, and that could be really quite demanding. I think it requires lots of patience, and as a culture we've become impatient because everything has to be instant. So I think recognizing that the model to take, if you like, is the model of nature, where, there is spring, then there is summer, then there is autumn, then there is winter. And I think recognizing that I am not able to control everything is the way to go today. But secondly, how to prepare for this is actually to live that interior life more intensely, because the interior life is where I do actually have the capacity to make choices, to shape it myself. So take possession of your interior world more strongly, so that your loving heart is now the foundation rather than your career ambition.
I like what you said about the seasons, spring, summer, autumn, winter, and the idea that some things just aren't available when you need them. And that's okay to get used to that.
Exactly. Yeah. So just getting used to, you can't have everything all the time. Same strawberries at Christmas. I would say, well, that's a bit odd. Why would you want strawberries at Christmas?
It's funny though. I think this whole kind of lockdown is an exercise in not having strawberries at Christmas, and some people are learning to kind of not to go without, but to get used to having what you need rather than having what you want.
Exactly.
And do you feel like that's a good thing that people?
I think it's a really, really good thing. It feels like a rebalancing to me. A rebalancing of our needs and our wants, and helping people to have that more interior sense of themselves, which means they can be more at peace with less.
I like that you say that, because what part of this experience has been for me as someone who's 19 years old, a lot of what my family has been telling me, a lot of what relatives have been telling me is like, oh, this reminds me of when I was younger, this reminds me of how things were before. And I feel like it's a really nice thing that there's almost, like you said, that almost balancing of going back to an equilibrium where you don't have more than what you need.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed that.
But what's really sad is that it's taken a tragedy to do that. So it's taken, people in the UK dying to make us realise this, and that's horrible.
And do you think it matters how we navigate tragedy?
It absolutely does, and how to own up to the sadness and the grief, which is very real, and to share in that, but at the same time to say, maybe there is something really important for me to learn here. It was put to me by a grieving mother once, who said to me, the loss of a child is one of probably the most difficult thing any parent can go through. The hole never gets smaller, but beautiful things grow around the edge of that hole. And I think that's a very good way of putting it.
I think that might be a way, in some respects, to sum up this experience going through this pandemic, because I think that personally what I've seen is a lot of people being a lot kinder to each other. So the idea of something kind of full of love and something fruitful coming out of a tragedy, do you think that's an important message for people to kind of have at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
This has been a lovely, lovely conversation to have with you, Father Christopher, and thank you for having this chat with me.
Well, it's been lovely to talk to you, Shola, and I'm so pleased that we opened up so many interesting topics together and that we spoke between the generations in a really interesting way. Thank you.